name is Jeremiah C. Reyes. I am the commercial attaché at the Philippine Trade and Investment Center here in Jakarta and also the economic official to the Philippine Permanent Mission to ASEAN. So from time to time po, aside from doing bilateral work, the office is also in charge in doing policy work when it comes to trade negotiations here in Jakarta. So my discussion outline for this afternoon will be very short and straightforward. So I'll talk about the Philippine trade profile in ASEAN, consumer trends in ASEAN, and some policy updates in ASEAN, as well as the theme of Philippine Trade and Investment Centers in ASEAN. So when we talk about the Philippine trade profile in ASEAN, we are exporting at least 15% of the total Philippine exports to ASEAN. And out of that 15%, 50% are actually more on the electronic side. So it's more on the electronic integrated circuits, parts of automatic data processing machine, copper cathodes, and as such. When it comes to imports, ASEAN is a very important import source because almost 20% of the import requirement of the Philippines actually sourced from ASEAN. And most of these import requirements are actually part of the global value chain and the regional supply chains. So meaning what we import from ASEAN member states are actually part of what we export around the world. So it consists of motor vehicles, coal, which is important for our manufacturing, electronic integrated circuits, petroleum oil, and as such. So when it comes to consumer trends, I'll jump now to the consumer trends in ASEAN. ASEAN is the world's third most populous economy. If we combine ASEAN, all the countries in ASEAN represents almost 700 million people. So it's a big market. And over the next decade, ASEAN is expected to become the world's fourth largest. ASEAN's growth will be propelled by four mega forces. So it means that the ASEAN's growth in the coming years will actually be influenced by the following activities. First is favorable demographics. Favorable demographics meaning ASEAN is becoming young, tech savvy, and most of its population are moving from rural areas to the city centers. And it's very prevalent according to the World Economic Forum in Indonesia and in Vietnam. Young consumers in ASEAN are tech savvy, likely to discover products on social media and comfortable in spending online. Next would be the rising income levels. Despite the pandemic, the World Economic Forum actually predicted that the income levels in ASEAN will grow on a positive rate and creating economies powered by the middle class. So the purchasing power of people in ASEAN are still growing despite of what's happening currently. And the growth in ASEAN will also be influenced by geopolitical shifts. We all know and aware of what's happening politically in the region. And there are major players that are actually present in ASEAN. So geopolitics and local regulations can somehow be a positive and a negative have a positive and a negative impact in the region. While it will open door for foreign direct investments, it will also create challenges when it comes to closing the market. In the past months, when we were discussing about the recent trends in trade policies in ASEAN, we've seen that a number of countries are introducing protectionist measures. So while the ASEAN is opening up, while tariffs are already at 0%, the rising protectionism is very prevalent, especially in the country where I am now. So yun po yung mga sinusubaybayan namin from time to time. And lastly, digital tailwinds. It means that digital economy is here to stay. Digital economy is something that we need to embrace. And as consumers adopt digitalization, investors actually fund innovative digital businesses and government support to initiate key digital transformation programs. So nasabi nga po kanina ng mga colleagues ko, yung mga earlier presenters, that actually digitalization leveled the playing field not only in my region but also in the world, because now kahit hindi po tayo mag-attend physically ng mga trade shows and events, or hindi po natin makausap physically yung mga kausap natin when it comes to market access, and when it comes to export promotion, nakakausap po natin sila online, which this platform is giving us more influence and more reach because everything is digital. So according to a survey, this is a website called Ancient Babylonians this year. 50% of the total population in ASEAN already did online shopping. This slide will guide you on ano ba yung mga nangyayari ngayon in the region. Out of that 50% that did online shopping in ASEAN, clothing, electronics, personal care, and beauty products have the highest purchase frequency. And this is followed by entertainment package. It consists of media, online gaming, hobbies, and content. So dito po papasok yung Netflix, iTunes, and home improvements, including urban gardening. So dito rin po papasok yung mga plantitos and plantitas natin. So 54% of the population in Southeast Asian region have switched brands in the past 3 months. Meaning, yung preferences po ng population here in ASEAN are changing quickly. Products come to people and not people search for products. We've noticed this because of the algorithms currently that we have in all our applications, our digital applications. So minsan, yung mga preferences po natin when we search through various search engines, minsan po, pag napansin nyo sa Facebook, sa Twitter, or sa Instagram, yung mga produkto na related doon sa mga sinesearch natin on a daily basis, yun po yung lumalabas ng mga produkto. And this is somehow important when it comes to marketing because this is crucial in identifying and developing new products. And lastly, consumer buy products through discovery rather than intent-driven. So according to YouGov survey, almost 57% of the total population in ASEAN prioritize value in purchases when shopping. So these are the current percentage of consumers with value for money as one of their top 3 considerations when do shopping now in 2020. So it's 71% in Thailand, 68% in Singapore, 59% in Malaysia, 52% in the Philippines, 49% in Indonesia, and 43% in Vietnam. So more value-seeking consumers, such as rural shoppers, are more intentional about what they buy. And they want to get the best deals for a planned purchase rather than splurge or shop around. And this is because of what's happening in the world. And this naman will talk about the trend when it comes to grocery shopping. So 48% in ASEAN region do fresh grocery shopping, while 44% are doing packaged groceries. And of this 48%, 83% said that they will continue to do fresh grocery shoppings under the new normal, while 80% of the 44% of the packaged groceries will do the same. It means that as businesses adjust to the new normal, the shift to online purchases has accelerated mainly for essentials. So while people are staying at home, it increased actually the demand for essential goods, both online and offline. And this trend is here to stay in the region. Among consumers who have been buying more since April, at least 80% indicated that they plan to continue buying groceries online even in the future. So ngayon po, it tells us that under the new normal, it is more important for us to develop products and services that can be sold online. So, kailangan po natin mag-explore ng mga online platforms for our products. So, in summary, these are the consumer trends in ASEAN. So, first, digitalization plays a key role. E-commerce industry changes the lifestyle and business operations, and it is predicted to be the fastest growing sector with ASEAN's internet economy. E-commerce platforms has evolved from a pull to push model. It means that doing digital marketing, doing digitalization is a must. It's inevitable. We have to do digitalization. Live streaming video is gaining huge traction in e-commerce, and in ASEAN, an average consumer watch 17 short videos, 13 medium length, and almost less than a 1% long videos per day. So yung mga gumagawa po ng product promotion and marketing, it is something that we have to explore as well. In ASEAN, there's also a prevalence of ready-to-eat meals and shift to plant-based alternatives. E-wallet shows the highest growth in the preferred mode of payment, while cash on delivery is still most popular but actually declining. So in terms of specific markets, we chose ASEAN 5. This is not an exhaustive list, but just to show you what are the products and services that are getting more traction in select individual ASEAN member states. So for example, in Singapore, Singapore now is relying on traditional ingredients. There's a rising interest to plant-based alternatives. There's a decline in demand in seafoods and other meats, lower demand of bakery and snacks, and food innovators are launching variety of products to meet consumer need for gut health and immunity. In Indonesia, for example, halal has been an indicator actually of doing business here in Indonesia. So halal is very important in the market. There's also a clamor for ready-to-go meals. Interest in milk tea and other beverages continues to rise. But in terms of quick service restaurants, pizza and burger preference are on a decline. Indonesians are munching less on cookies and cakes, but there's a growing interest in vegetables and noodles in Indonesia. Preferences for fresh fruits are also on the decline. Yesterday as well, when a survey was released by a government ministry, it shows that Indonesia is also preferring now to have more noodles than rice. So there's a surplus, a huge surplus of rice now in the Indonesian market. In Vietnam, local products are of high quality and um, the majority of the population are still preferring local products. The key areas of expenditures of the Vietnamese are on fresh food and FMCG, education, eating and drinking out, entertainment, and traveling. In Vietnam, we are seeing less cooking, more on ready-to-eat meals, like in Indonesia, less sugar, more natural ingredients, and smart living needs. In Thailand, plant protein are getting traction, interest in snacks, bakery, and dairy items. And then now, some ingredients and products related to health and immunity, like selenium whey protein finger roots, are on demand in Thailand. And meal kits to prepare various types of cuisines in the comfort of home are becoming popular also in Thailand. Malaysia is exploring moringa, kamote, and virgin coconut oil for immunity. So I'll go now with Malaysia. The rate of growth of bakery and snacks is increasing in Malaysia. Interest in milk tea as compared to last year is also increasing. Um, Poke bowls, salads, and juices will pick up the pace with healthy foodies. So Malaysia is also getting healthy alternatives. Cashless is a way of life, and of course, halal. It's very important in the Malaysian market. So to sum up all of these trends and what's happening in ASEAN, the World Economic Forum released early this year the consumption themes in the region. First is that consumer spending will double, driven by ASEAN middle class, as I mentioned earlier. Boundaries of premium and value shopping will blur. Digital ubiquity will become the new normal. Technology-enabled platforms will turn down socio-economic walls. This is what I mentioned earlier, when I told you that e-commerce is the great equalizer of what's happening currently. Local and regional competitive wins will prevail. Shoppers will move beyond omni-channel to expect retail omnipresence. Convenience will be the new currency, and the health of people and the planet will be non-negotiable. So I'll go now with some quick policy updates and initiatives in ASEAN. These are very select policy updates in ASEAN because given the time constraints, I think if we talk about all the policy initiatives in ASEAN, it will take more hours. So I will focus now on addressing the non-tariff measures in ASEAN. I think given that as tariffs, yung mga taripa po na binabayaran natin dun sa mga produkto when we export to ASEAN, in ASEAN po kasi almost 96% are zero tariff. And with the advent of zero tariff game, tumaas naman po yung mga NTMs that our exporters are facing in ASEAN. I know some because I've met some exporters already or who are having difficulty in penetrating the Indonesian market, for example, because of the prevalence of a number of non-tariff measures. And it's not only in Indonesia, but also across the region. So in ASEAN po, we have the ASEAN Trade in Goods Agreement, and the ASEAN Trade in Goods Agreement has a work program on trade facilitation. When we say trade facilitation, it means that we have to make sure that trade is going smoothly and trade is consistent, transparent, and predictable for our exporters. In making ASEAN a transparent and a trade facilitative region, there are several initiatives to address this one. And these are inscribed in the ASEAN Trade in Goods Agreement and then the ASEAN Trade Facilitation Framework. Ito pong mga framework na to or mga agreement, it calls upon ASEAN member states to increase transparency of their regulations through notification, publication, and accessibility of information. So meron pong requirement to all ASEAN member states na kailangan nilang i-notify, i-publish, and make sure that this information are available for their measures that affects our exports. And then one crucial part of this measure is the participation of the private sector. So dito po pumapasok yung mga inputs ng ating mga exporters and private sector because the private sector, kayo po yung nakakaalam kung ano yung mga measures na ito kung nahihirapan po kayo na i-comply. Kasi po, again, may mga measures po, hindi po lahat ng measures na ini-impose ng mga bansa ay barrier to our exports. So kailangan po natin alamin if these measures actually hinder or hamper your exports. So ngayon po, may mga dialogues and discussions in ASEAN wherein these measures are being talked about, these measures are being resolved, and these measures are discussed. And in ASEAN po, ito just to introduce you to some of the instruments that we are using, we have the Area UNCTAD ASEAN NTM database. And ito pong ASEAN NTM database na to, it is on a per country basis, per tariff line basis. So ngayon, kung gusto niyo pong i-check yung mga measures and regulations that will affect your exports, pwede niyo pong bisitahin itong website na to, and it's on a tariff line basis. We also have the ASEAN Trade Repository. The ASEAN Trade Repository is a single point access to the national trade repositories that provide and maintain national level trade related information. So sa Philippines po, we have the PNTR, the Philippine National Trade Repository. It houses regulations, rules, and laws that affects our trade, and nakalink po siya dun sa ASEAN Trade Repository. So ngayon po, all ASEAN member states also have their national trade repositories which are linked to this platform. Next would be the matrix of actual cases and the ASEAN solutions on services, investments, and trade. Ito pong matrix of actual cases, I would like to introduce you to the DTI Export Marketing Bureau and then the DTI Bureau of International Trade Relations. Since si BITR po, in coordination with EMD and the Post, may mga measures po kasi na kailangan talaga natin i-call out yung mga partners natin. And we need the inputs of the private sector to fill up that form kung paano po kayo naapektuhan, kung paano po kayo nahirapan dun sa mga measures na yon. And eventually, there are formal mechanisms to hear and resolve these trade complaints and discuss trade-related measures. So dito na po papasok yung work ng DTI in attending ASEAN meetings, especially on the ASEAN Trade Facilitation Joint Committee. Ito naman pong assist, the ASEAN Solutions on Services, Investment, and Trade. This is an online platform wherein our exporters or private sector can lodge their complaint online. So may fill upan lang po kayo dyan online, and yung na-fill upan nyo po na yun na information will be recorded and emailed directly to the contact points of each ASEAN member states. Kung ano po yung mga measures, as I've said, that you had a hard time in complying. So these are all live. You can visit all these websites. So recently, in November 10, the ASEAN, this is important given the pandemic because ASEAN signed the MOU on the implementation of non-tariff measures on essential goods. We've seen that the movement of essential goods in ASEAN in the early part of the pandemic, actually, there's some sort of delay in the movement of the essential goods. And that's why in ASEAN, we came up with this instrument to ensure the smooth flow of essential goods and prevent supplies disruption during the COVID-19 pandemic. It committed ASEAN member states to refrain from imposing restrictive trade measures on essential goods and supplies except for public health emergencies. The composition of the essential goods is based on the list provided by the World Customs Organization and then the World Health Organization. I think this is one of the most important developments in the region, one that will actually change the trade policy landscape in the region as well, is the signing of the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. ASEAN signed the RCEP last Sunday. Once in place, RCEP will enable faster growth in the region, which now account for almost 30% of global GDP and so on and so forth of these numbers. It's a very huge and massive trade agreement, and I guess this requires another conversation with our exporters. I say that because um, currently po sa ASEAN, di ba, may mga existing tayo na ASEAN FTAs with various trading partners like Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Korea, China. May mga concessions po tayo na nakuha under RCEP na wala po dun sa mga existing FTAs. And that's the reason why we need to familiarize ourselves on the benefits of the RCEP. This is just to introduce you with our team in ASEAN. So we have our PTIC in Bangkok, Mr. Rico Mariano, who also handles Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, and Vietnam, and me, of course, here in Jakarta. We also have Kat Banzon from Kuala Lumpur, and Special Trade Representative Ms. Cynthia Rica Ford, who is based in Singapore and also handling Brunei. And for the list of the officers in the Foreign Trade Service Corps, here's the link. You can visit us and get our contact details. And with that po, I'll end my presentation. Please get in touch with us. We are in Instagram. We are also in Facebook. And here's our email address. Please do not hesitate to contact us for more information, and to my colleagues as well. Maraming salamat po and magandang hapon po sa lahat. Thank you.